What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Chris, as always with me, Liam. And today we are diving into Dexter Original Sin, Episode 7, The Captain Did It. And so much more. We actually had I had a theory that was way off. You had some that were actually correct, and we're gonna dive into all of it today. I just wanna give a quick shout out though to Donnie Man 6739. You were the one who predicted on the last video when I was saying it was Tanya that did it. You said, no, it's the captain. That's why I avoided the oil spot. And now we know 100% you're absolutely correct. So I want to give you a quick shout out. And I really do appreciate everybody who is commenting, sharing their theories, and engaging with us in the comments. Remember, we're not just talking heads. We're not trying to be the authorities on this stuff. We're just trying to share what we love with you. And we love when you guys share it back. So love your comments and keep it coming. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. We've grown by over 4,000 subscribers in the last 30 days. It's been absolutely explosive. And I really want to thank you guys. So make sure you do that if you haven't already. So let's dive in, brother. What was this episode for you?
It was closing a lot of loops.
Agreed, yeah.
That's what it was for me. I knew Dexter's relationship wasn't going to last. I knew it was going to come between Deb and her. Come on, teenagers. We literally grew up doing stupid shit like that, and we've seen it happen with the rest of our friends, right?
Right.
So that was interesting. The cop that was afraid Dexter was going to out him.
Yeah, we called him Carl. His name is Clark. Hey, Carl. I think that's why I wanted to do it, but his name is Clark, yeah.
I think I know where you got it from, Carl Winslow.
I honestly thought like the C name was Carl, all right? And I also think like the damn it Carl was pretty funny that we went into, but yeah, his name is Clark.
Okay.
He looks nothing like the gentleman who played Mr. Winslow on Family Matters, so I don't think I would make that correlation.
I thought it was just this famous C name as a cop.
Yeah.
Okay. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I went with that anyway. But they had this little conversation. He kind of went up to Dexter. He's like, I appreciate if I can keep these two lives separate, you know.
Well, he could really appreciate that. He gets it on a deep level.
Yes. And so Dexter's like, yeah, school, your secret's safe with me.
Right.
And we're good. And we knew that was going to play an important part later on, but I still feel like there's more to come of that.
I got a question. With that scene and then also the scene with one thing I'm noticing in this series is that things that are being teed up to be massive consequence, like massive issues and consequences that are going to come up for a character, almost immediately become nothing. Did you notice? Like, have you noticed that throughout the season? Did you guys notice that in the comments? Because I mentioned it in a previous video, how like it seems like every time Dexter screws up, there's like no real consequences. It scares him for like a couple hours and then he like gets the answer right away. And it happened again in this one where he's already at the crime scene. He comes in as the crime scene investigator. No one's like, why are you here? Not even his own colleague was like, hey, you're not like, didn't investigate why he was there, didn't look into it anymore. He's just like, oh, you're here. I'm going to make you my bitch. And then the alligator takes the arm. Like, it just makes things like the way things are like written into this
Lazy.
is way lazy. It's just like, there's no real consequences. There's no real thought. There's no real strategy in trying to solve how to get out of these things. It's just like, oh, done.
And that is the difference from using ChatGPT and Gemini.
Imagine that. They're using freaking AI to write freaking Dexter.
I seriously wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, there's going to come a time very soon because they're so advanced now that, you know, that roles like that, creative roles like that get replaced for sure. Scary. But yeah, I have an issue. Like, I think these are entertaining. I'm enjoying it. I'm actually having fun watching this series, but that's my one thing right now that I'm like really like, it's under my skin. Yep. I'm like, damn, they can't just put a little bit more thought into like how Dexter has to solve this issue. It's just like, oh, is the answer's right there. So anyway, I'll move on.
I think that's more for the masses, right? Because you always will have these shows that will pander to the less intelligent, like spoon feed them the actual what's going on just so that they can keep up, and they kind of frustrate the shit at me. Those are typically on the late nights, Monday night shows, stuff like that. They'll just go ahead and pander to everyone.
When everyone's brains are turned off and they're not really thinking. Yeah. So they got to like spoon feed it to them. Otherwise they're just like, what happened? I get that way late at night too. That's why I watch my TV, especially stuff we review in the mornings.
Did you watch that this morning?
I watch things early in the morning, yeah, because I'll retain it more. If I start watching it at night, I'll miss things.
I watched it last night.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is taking a while for this to come out. Because I kept checking like every hour on the hour starting at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. last night. It's just like, oh, let's just double check. Let's get there. Let's get there. I was looking forward to it because we missed it last week. There was no episode. They did this kind of hiatus thing where we'll skip a week.
Yeah. So he ends up kind of fumbling his way through that issue with the arm, gets out of it, and then dumps his newest body in a dumpster, ends up in a landfill, and then that's over. That's the last we hear of that now, too. We do find out, though, that Tanya is not the killer, and that we know for sure that I think it was an interesting way we set it up too. I want to just back up a second because the kid sharpening up the handle and turning it into a shiv. I was like, okay, this is clever. I like this kid is gonna do some stuff. But then he only cuts his arm, doesn't really play it out. Also a kid, not trained, get it, not gonna do something special or hero-ish. So he cuts him. I'm like, okay, great. Now all we have to do is pay attention to people's arms throughout the rest of this episode, and we're gonna get who this is. And then as soon as you see, like, there's a cut scene right before Dexter notices where you just see the bandage slightly.
Yeah.
And you caught it too. And I'm like, boom, got it. You and because you had mentioned that you might think it was as well, and our audience member as well nailed it. It's the captain, not the sheriff, which is Patrick Dempsey's character. And I have been saying throughout this entire series that there's something off about him. And I just thought that maybe he wasn't fitting the role well. But ultimately, it's because they wanted us to feel that. Like, they wanted us to feel like there was something not right about this character. He has a dark side. There's something we shouldn't trust. And I had the feeling, and I kept mentioning it, and like, it might just be the actor in the wrong role, but I think there's something there. And I kept putting it off onto Tanya to be the killer. But in this episode, when they walk in and they get their arm cut, very clearly a man. Like, you can very clearly see their body for the first time. Very masculine, much bigger than Sarah Michelle Gellar is as a character in real life. So I'm like, okay, definitely a man. And then we get the reveal of who it really is. And I'm like, oh, wow. All the pieces of that puzzle just came together for me. I don't know why I just didn't jump to that conclusion originally, but now I know why I felt off.
And it's still fitting this whole theory I have. If an actor feels like they're too big of a character for a specific part, then they have a major piece of the actual story.
It's something we haven't seen yet. Yeah, I get that. And that's why I thought it might be Sarah Michelle Gellar, because in my mind, she's a little bit more relevant still than Patrick Dempsey is. Is she? I thought. I guess not. Or maybe she is because they're going to keep her going forward, and obviously he's going to get killed off by Dexter eventually.
I don't know. I still see her as gambling troubles.
Yeah. I guess that whole horse scene really was just set up to either show us where she has issues or also to give us how Dexter now knows how to sedate people.
I think it's more than just the sedating part.
Yeah. There's something else.
Otherwise, it is completely lazy fucking writing.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that multiple times in this season, unfortunately. So I want to touch on something and give you a tip of the hat for. You had mentioned that because when he was down in the records room and she offers him the boat, right? She's like, hey, do you want to take a ride on the boat? If you ever, you ever want it, girls really like it, yada, yada, yada. And you're like, is this the beginning of him learning where he goes and dumps the body? And in this episode, he even says, I don't have a boat yet. And then you're looking at the Bay, which is famous for the first season. He becomes like the famous serial killer for that. So all of that was total nodding and leaning towards exactly what you thought it was. And it's how he learns his new MO, his new dumping grounds, if you will.
Well, yeah, he's still experimenting. And how he's talking about the one case that the Guerrero kind of took his theory and ran with it to the captain.
Yeah.
But after that one piece, he's stumbling to find how he's doing it, just as he's discovering that this new serial killer is doing the same.
I think that's also how he's so easily able to identify what's going on, because he can relate to it in real time. He's like, oh, that's what I'm doing, so that's clearly what they're doing. One thing I thought was really interesting, and we'll hop to something next, but the Patrick Dempsey's character, Aaron, the captain, there were multiple times where LaGuardia comes in with Harry, and they're talking about a serial killer, and all of a sudden he just gets really quiet, and he's like, "Good work. You did a good job. Go get him. I can't wait to see what you do." And then also Dexter starts talking to him about serial killers, and like, he must have a connection, or it's a sloppy hitman because this one was a hesitation kill or hesitation cut, and this one wasn't. And he's like his whole demeanor just changes, and you like start to see like that dark passenger take over a little bit, and be like, "Hey, I can relate to this, but I got to keep myself calm," and just like, "Yeah, that's interesting, yeah." But you can tell like he's like trying to hold himself back from like wanting to be excited about it.
Yes, I saw that as well.
We know what I want to ask the audience. Why do you think he kidnapped his own son? What do you think the motive is behind that? And why would he ultimately harm his own blood? What is he trying to achieve? I'd love to hear your guys' theories on that. We'll also share ours in the comments.
It's revenge.
We'll share it here, share it in the comments. So that way we can, yeah. But I think it's something deeper than that. I think there's something much, much deeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's much deeper? What's your thought?
I think that it is, I guess not. I guess ultimately too, it's just revenge. Revenge is ultimately the driver for that.
The common denominator?
Yeah, because it's revenge for the affair. It's wanting to hurt and make his wife feel weak, out of control, wants her to break, wants her to feel pain for what he's been through. I think it all has to do with the relationship with the parents and why he's doing what he does. I think the reason he did the other kid first was to throw off the trail.
Or a dry run?
I don't know if it was a dry run. I think if he just grabbed his own kid and made it seem like his kid was abducted, it would be less of a weight than, oh my God, we were like, because the first kid sets precedent for what may happen to the second, right? And so now, oh my God, my kid got abducted. Your mind can race and go in a million places, which are never going to be good anyway, right? But now I think he has it set up so that very clearly, your child is going to get harmed and ultimately killed if we do not figure this out. And so now there's a lot more weight behind that. She believes it's her own fault. Aaron himself gets to, if he doesn't get caught, show up as maybe the hero if he saves them, or, there's a lot that can go into that and allow him to ultimately get the revenge, as you said, and lay the pain back on others that he had received himself.
Okay. And what about Deb blowing up her whole fucking life?
I thought that was an interesting nod to the Deb of the future, right? We're starting to see, she doesn't have any love for Harry, but she's got immense love for Dexter. And she showed that in this episode, where she chose Dexter over her friend, her best friend. And basically was like, I can't always choose you. And she was right not to, because she knows her brother, right? She knows that her brother ain't no player, stupidly awkward, and, is not having, car sex with random women. Is just not, that's not what he was doing. And so, right to defend him. And I think
It was laughable for her.
yeah.
It's just like, oh.
And and the friend is being stupid. The friend's not seeing clearly, and also went and did something very stupid. Like you went and ratted out your best friend to the point where cops can be involved. Like that's not a small little like I gotcha. That's like a life-changing, life-altering situation. You get in trouble for Grand Theft Auto. That's on your record. That's a different story, right? And so, I would have teed off on someone who was trying to assault me too then. If I had just got that threat and then also just got pushed by the woman who is, my arch rival or whatever, or the person who was my arch rival, in this case it was a woman. In Deb's case, I would have punched her too, right? Like, I don't know. And it's also a different time. So I think everything that happened was error correct and positive, like proper for that situation. And I also think it's also a good reason why Deb doesn't go to college and becomes a cop, right? We're starting to see that play out. Why didn't she follow a different path and then follow in the footsteps of Dexter and Harry? Now we know she blew up her life for Dexter to protect her family.
Also, Brian, the ice truck killer.
Your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You notice how when they showed him again, that ear music, he's going to show up before the end.
They've shown him in a very dark light since we first got introduced to him, right? With the lizards and like the awkward, like dark type of situations that we find him in. And yeah, I think that the show writers, directors, whatever you want to call it, is definitely leaning very heavily into who we know him to be later, right? Like he starts here. I don't think we're gonna see him. Like we'll see him as young Brian, and ultimately up until the incident when he gets put into foster care. But I do not think you are gonna see him. We had a discussion about this, and then we had a viewer comment that they, and I kind of agree with them on this. And what they had mentioned was that they believe that Brian never really went far. He was always in the vicinity, but he wasn't like studying and watching Dexter the entire time. He was just like around. And it wasn't until he got a little bit older that he actually realized that Dexter was there, and then started to like stalk him and study him and want to be more involved with him. But that there's no connection until much later.
I don't think there's going to be a connection in terms of him actively pursuing him, but I think he's going to show up as the more adult version of himself in this episode before it's, not an episode, but a season before it's over.
So you think he's going to show up relative to Dexter's age now? Like they're going to jump forward and he'll be the relative age of that?
He's like the only one we haven't seen yet from the flashback. And Dexter's mom, because she's obviously dead, but...
Which is, we're moving towards that right now. So yeah.
Two stories in parallel.
Right.
And past and future. But I think we're going to see him before the season's out.
Interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think we'll get a young adult Brian, or do you think that we're just going to keep getting the hints of, you know, who we know he is?
Or have we seen him already and not realized it?
Yeah, there's been multiple times where people have like sleuthed back through the Dexter series, the original, looking to see where there was like intertwined that we didn't notice before. And there was a couple different theories on some cool stuff, but obviously we're not reviewing that right now, so we don't have to go there, but some cool stuff about that. So I think ultimately too, the last real thing we would need to talk about is what's going on in those flashbacks. You know, we had the enforcer for the lead cartel guy show up at her house and take her before she can even put her groceries in. Ultimately being a good thing, but the cartel boss still very wary, right? He has her watching her. So like I said, we're watching that lead up to her ultimately being killed. And I have a theory right now, and let me know what you guys think about this. I think Harry, having Deb, is going to pull his attention and affection away from her and Dexter. As we saw, Dexter called him daddy. She's like, that's not your daddy. That's, you know, and that whole thing went down. So now she's distracted because the relationship's failing. He's distracted because he's pulled between two families. And ultimately that conflict is going to get her killed. So he's going to have tons of guilt around that. He grabs Dexter. We know that happens. Comes back to the family, raises Deb. Dexter has a lot of resentment now, as we've always thought, towards Deb, because he believes that, you know, he feels very responsible for the death. And ultimately, you know, Deb was a huge reason why he was distracted. I think all of that is going to come to a head while we see this play out. And I think that my theory is that because of what we're watching in this relationship and Deb's birth, that's ultimately going to be the distraction that allows the mistake to happen, where she gets caught and then gets killed.
I agree.
Yeah, but other than that, I feel that was a good episode. Other than the Dexter needs to stop getting out of this trouble too quickly and actually see him use a little bit of brilliance to like figure out how to do that, so that we know why the later Dexter is so good at getting away with it. Because right now he's sloppy and he's still getting away with it. So it's like, give us a little bit more there, writers, please. But other than that, I think they're doing a good job of tying things back and forth and giving us a piece of what we know and tying it in. I think it's been good.
I'm definitely enjoying it.
Yeah.
And still can't wait for the next episode. So
yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this episode, we actually have reviewed every episode so far. We have a whole playlist for it right here. We actually just finished doing the entire series, season 2 of Silo, not the series, but the season. Season 2, they actually have 2 more seasons confirmed. Very excited about that. So Silo, if you love it like we do, we reviewed the entire 2nd season. You can see the playlist for it right there. And I also like some other stuff that might be right above my head. And then also don't forget to subscribe if you have not already, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a single episode. We are always looking for good recommendations, so drop them down in the comments. My name is Chris.
bye.
No, we'll see you on that video.
No, don't go away.
Find the strength hiding in each battle scar. You're not who you were, you've already come far.